have not met me or know my name's Shane. I'm hosting the Play Lab here, which is our opportunity at Corporate Challenge to bridge the science and the play. For anyone that's worked with us in the past, they would know that we're experts in the field in terms of executing our events and the play-based team building and delivering for our clients. But there's a lot of science and knowledge and frameworks that go behind the experiences that we create. And we don't often share those in a way that is a learning resource. So we've put together the webinars to just share some of our thoughts on how we go about thinking on events and creating environments for our clients. So that's pretty much where we sit and why we've put this together. Today is going to be a conversation with Kieran, our Queensland State Marriage. I was going to say Kieran, State Manager. Around the great indoors problem, which I'll go through in a minute. But before I do, I just wanted to frame up in September on the Play Lab. We've got a very special guest. And so for anyone listening in, John Christensen, who is the founder of the Fish Philosophy, is going to be joining myself for an interview on it'll be 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in Australia on the 14th of September. So if you know anything about John or the Fish Philosophy, we deliver that within Australia and New Zealand as a licensee, and John is world class. So for an opportunity to hear from the person who created this training program, culture development program worldwide, around his thinking, where it came from, how he took a Pike Place fish market and the culture they created and into a training program is going to be very interesting, and I'm looking forward to that. So if you are keen, we will send some links around signing up and registering. But yeah, 14th of September at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time will be the time that I'll be talking to John. So look, in terms of today, Kieran, before I do an introduction for yourself, we've labelled today the great indoors problem. So we know that you can have all the right people, the strategies, all the working conditions there, but if the environment's not right in terms of focus and draining energy and connection, you can still be missed in terms of your performance. So we wanted to have a conversation around what that looks like from an environment point of view. Now, we share a model called the three E's, which is first E being engagement, which is our play-based team building, and using that as experiences to create connection and engage teams to learn about the people side of the business, or whatever they're in. We have the education side, the second E, which is behavioral profiling, communication styles, the fish philosophy, as well as different values, beliefs, and mission statement work with organisations. But where we spend a lot of time thinking about internally, but not, I guess, communicating that much, is how do we actually create the environments for our clients to succeed? And that comes from their working environments, how they spend the majority of their time, because we know that it's only a small part that they have with us. There might be an offsite workshop for 3 hours, 4 hours, half day, whatever that might be, but the environment they have day to day plays a massive part in their overall success. So that's where the conversation is going to go. As I mentioned, Kieran from Queensland, mate, thank you for joining me. I've asked you to be on today because you are the expert at all things outdoors and nature, in my eyes anyway. And I think a degree in outdoor movement is, or outdoor education in a way.
Outdoor leadership.
Outdoor leadership, sorry. So you spend a lot of time outdoors, and I know actually I might get you to do an introduction of kind of where you came from before here with the Big Four and what led you to do this type of work.
Yeah, thanks, Shane. And yeah, bit of a background. My journeys came from being born in the middle of a national park over in the UK, and our national parks over there a little small compared to Australian standards. But where I actually grew up, it was green rolling hills, mountains, rivers, and some of the last undeveloped land that you can find in the UK. And that's in the Peak District. It's the second largest national park over there. And growing up there, I was the youngest of four boys. So for me, it was straight away, as soon as I could walk, I was being pulled along with those guys. And my three older brothers would take me out into the outdoors. And whether that be building dens or building dams across streams and rivers or climbing trees, like all of the stereotypical things that you hear of what childhood used to be and what we all hope for our own kids, that was my childhood. And it was not so many years ago at all, right? And I think that the generation that I've grown up in is it's a unique one because while I was also being taken into the outdoors as every generation before has been. I was also part of the technological and technology revolution that's brought us gaming and computers in every home and all of those things. So it's been this juxtaposition between my love for the outdoors and my love for technology and how those two things marry up. And I think that I can actually trace a line through my career and I can see those two things sometimes being in conflict, sometimes being at odds, but sometimes being great bedfellows and working well together. And I think that that's what I'm hoping to share today as well. Is a little bit of what I've learned along the way, and a little bit of inspiration, and also just to find out a little bit more from any of the attendees today, and from yourself as well, Shane, about what you do, because I know that we're all facing different challenges, and we all have different environments around us. And we all, between us, I believe, have the solution as to how we can all feel that little bit better in our work environment and how we can all work better in our teams and how we can all contribute to the success of our organizations and our families. So, as you just mentioned there, degree in outdoor leadership. So I think it's probably my childhood leading me through into choosing that as a pathway. That was a 3-year honours degree over in the largest national park, actually, in the UK. So my degree was pretty unique. We'd often get lecturers would just send us coordinates, and we had to go and find those coordinates on an ordnance survey map, and then go and actually have our lecture on the side of a mountainside. Like we were taken up into the Scottish Highlands during the middle of winter, and we were just given crampons and ice picks, and we were told to go and winter mountaineer across ridges that if you fell down, you'd perish pretty quickly. And that's a little different to what I think most people's university experience is. And then going from that, coming to Australia, living in the urban environments, which I have done since arriving in Sydney and now here in the Gold Coast, and yeah, trying to weigh those two things and hold those two things at the same time, being a professional, but also being as much of a mountain monkey as I possibly can be, and heading out there into the bush whenever I can, and heading out on expeditions and adventures. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a summary and an overview of what's led me to where we are today,
Awesome.
Shane, and this call.
Absolutely, mate. So, look, I guess to start, when we talk about the indoor problem, right, we're talking about the screens, the back-to-back meetings, the tasks that will just continually flow on. And I guess something in terms of like an overall theory or something to discuss that I wanted to start and ask your opinion on, Kieran, is a biophilia hypothesis around how we are drawn to the nature and outdoors. Um,
Yes.
what do you know about that, and how can that be beneficial for an organization that's typically within four walls in an office building? Like, tell me about kind of where you sit on using that and what that is as a tool.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's an awareness that we all have obviously evolved in a certain environment. So we're up to the point that we find ourselves in today. Again, like I mentioned, computers only just coming into being in the long arc of history. We're a tiny blip at the end, right, at the moment with technology. Up until then, it has been a direct exposure to the outdoors. And while that has changed and it's evolved through time, and our use of the outdoors and our how we travel through the outdoors, going from being mobile hunter-gatherers through to being sedentary and stationary and often tied to a single place, what we've evolved with has been what's out there, right? It's very rare that unless you were the king in the castle, that you would have four stone walls around you and nothing natural in your presence. Usually, it would be that you were living half inside, half outside, and would spend most of your time outside unless you were hibernating through a cold winter. And I think that that's where we've just moved away from that, and we've moved away from that connection that we have with the outdoors. And I think that the majority of people, there's still some that have fears that prevent them from heading into the outdoors, but that's only obviously a small percentage. The majority of people that I know that I've worked with, that are my friends and my family members and anybody I've met, there's an awareness that there's something beneficial about being out there, and there's something that's happening. And I believe that it's actually just that we have evolved, our systems have evolved, our psychology has evolved, our chemicals, our hormones, our physicality, how we move, our joints, everything, how we feel things, the hair on our arms, the freckles on my skin, all of it is environmental. It's all designed and it's all been evolved whatever your belief may be, it has evolved to give us something in the outdoors and in our interaction with the outdoors and provide a service to us in a sense. So this
Mhm.
hair does actually serve a purpose on my arm, and it's only until I go out there that I really understand what that is.
Mhm.
And I think it's a different way of thinking about what biophilia is. But for me, it's that connection to what's out there and the yearning, the desire to get back out there, and then what that does in terms of restoring my energy, my focus, and just
Yeah,
my overall wellness.
for sure. And do you think that, teams like internally in their office are drawn to certain locations or spots within their meeting rooms or common areas without even kind of knowing that this is part of their biology and what they're willing to do, that have more living organisms or light or whatever it might be? I can see you're obviously next to a window there, where you're talking now. Like, do you see teams naturally do that without the understanding of why and the benefits? It happens.
Yes, yes, and yes, yes. And I think there's probably a reason, right, why I don't have my blackout blinds drawn and have artificial light in here during the
Yeah.
day. And it's because I know that natural light is doing something for me. And that's just a no-brainer. It's just something I do and it's what everyone else does. But when you see that on a larger scale, I've worked in corporates where we have entire towers in the middle of the CBD. And on one side of the tower, you're looking at other towers. And on the other side of the tower, you're looking at the river or you're looking at the mountains. And people gravitate to those spots. The busiest parts of the office aren't the parts that are in the back corner facing another tower. They're usually where they'll have put the meeting rooms or they'll put different things that aren't being used as much. The actual view, and we say the view, that is where people want to be. And we just take it for granted, right? We're like, of course, you want to have a view. You want to see something out there. But you can see something from the other side. You can see man-made towers. You can see windows. You can see other people sat at their desks in the tower next to you. But that's a view as well. Why is it that the view on the other side, facing the water, the mountains, the distance, the horizon, the movement, why is that more fascinating for us? And why, as organisms, do we get placed in that environment and just gravitate towards it? And it's because there's something inherent in all of us, and there's something there. There's a pull. There's a desire to be connected with it again.
Yeah. And I'm not sure about you, Kieran, but like when I'm working with venue partners in particular, I'm looking at that in the spaces. I think, like, obviously within what we do on a day-to-day basis, a lot of people invest a lot of time and energy in trying to create environments for their people to have deeper conversations or strategic planning or team building. And sometimes all the planning can go right, and if the venue's wrong because it's four walls with no natural light or environment, obviously can't land like it needs to. Do you look at that in like venues and people you partner with as well, like from a planning perspective?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that this is the majority of our programs that we run, they can work indoors and outdoors,
yeah.
right? And there's no escaping the fact that when weather conditions aren't favorable and it's torrential rain, or when we're, for instance, having bushfires or whatever it may be, that means that the conditions are not favorable to have a group outdoors participating in an activity. There is a very logical decision there to be made about moving indoors. But I think the question should always be raised, right? And it should always be asked, can we do this outdoors? And if you're thinking whether it's the right thing to do or not, actually weighing up the pros and cons. And I think it's an interesting thing. And I know Shane, I've spoken to you about this before, that in Australia especially, that we have uh, just absolute vast expanses of natural space that is just like that everybody in the world that is in a small country or an overpopulated country would do anything to have access to that type of space. But at the
Mhm.
same time, we have environmental conditions that mean at times that we it's difficult to head out there. And I think that that's the tricky part is that we have a beautiful outdoor environment here where it's full of flora and fauna that is unique to this continent and is not found anywhere else and that is famous the world over. But also, that flora and fauna and those conditions that we love can also be the thing that prevents us from going outside. And you have people concerned about stepping into long grass because there might be a snake, or going and sitting down on the ground because there might be a funnel web. Like there's things everywhere that are risks, right? And I think that that's the thing that in your mind and what we're told and in publicity and in the media where and it's easy to get into the way of thinking that what is out there isn't safe and it's safe to be indoors. But actually, having spent significant amounts of time out there in the bush by myself and sitting on that floor and being in that long grass, not once have I been bitten by a funnel web, and not once has a snake suddenly just appeared and got me. And it's because what we tell ourselves and the actual reality of what's out there,
Mhm.
sometimes there is a mismatch there, and that's why we have to challenge ourselves and our teams to yeah,
Yeah.
embrace it and head out there.
And I want to come back to that outdoor experiences that you have in terms of getting outdoors and whether that's purposeful. But before we go down that path, I wanted to, I guess, have everyone listening in like a few tips and tricks to be able to take away something practical. Obviously, we're talking theories, and it's great that they have a better understanding of kind of what naturally happens from a biology point of view. But let's go office environment. Let's say you're stuck inside for a longer period of time in front of the screen. What would your recommendations be for that workplace to try and create more living organisms around them, more natural light? Is there anything that you particularly recommend? Clearly, some green plants and things like that are a starting point. But where else would you take the conversation with a client wanting advice?
Yeah, and I think that yeah, like you mentioned, actually just bringing a plant into the space is important. Also, your positioning of your desk. So for me, it's here, and that means that I can be on a call and I can be seeing the outdoors even while I'm actually on the call itself. But it's
Yeah,
easy for me to then just disconnect from whatever's happening on my screen and have a look out there. But also heading outdoors for your lunch breaks, even if it means just going and sitting in your garden, walking outside, taking your shoes off. I mean, there's science that states that the positively charged electrons that are going around our bodies need discharging, which scientifically makes perfect sense. And the only way to do so in a lot of cases is to actually have skin touch the great outdoors, whether that be a tree, whether that be your feet on the ground. So there's really, really simple ways to actually reap the benefits of what's happening out there. You just have to be purposeful about it and challenge yourself and give yourself permission to step away from the computer and to recognize that a lunch outside is
yeah,
going to restore you much, much better than a lunch at your desk or a lunch in a closed off room with no windows and no doors. And I think that you can do that as well by pairing yourself with somebody. So it's hard, right? Because when we work from home, my closest colleagues, I mean, you guys are all in different states. I can't just go for a walk and talk meeting with you, and you can't just join me like you could if we were in the same office. But what we can do is we can still go for that walk and talk, and we can use our phones and we can actually be speaking to each other as we're walking along. We can challenge each other, we can hold each other accountable to go and spend 15 minutes each day outside, not on any technology, and then we can check in with each other each day to just make sure that the other person is doing it as well. And we know that when we actually make a pledge together and that we hold each other accountable, chances are that there's a higher success rate of actually completing the task that you've challenged each other with. So
yeah.
finding yourself a little nature buddy can help as well.
Yeah, and look, I think it comes back to what we always say. You just need to be more intentional and thoughtful around how you can do that more than anything. If we move to something around kind of restoration and attention restoration theory, Kieran, around focus is limited and we become drained in our decision making as day goes on, and our ability to concentrate goes up and down. Um, is that something you've explored? And I mentioned, like, I know you purposefully go into the outdoors. Is that you trying to restore your attention? I know you're a creative person in general. Like, is that a way that you have that outlet to do that, or something else around that?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. For myself, so I've been diagnosed with ADHD, right? And I've known that for many years, and it's a thing that for me, I know that the indoor environment is controlled, right? We've set up the indoor environments and everything we bring into our environment because it's predictable and it doesn't really have much risk and it doesn't move, right? It's not like you turn around, you go to the bathroom, you come back, and your computer's walked away. Like it doesn't happen. It stays exactly where you know it should be. Even if a piece of paper's moved on your desk, you know it's moved because there's so little changing in that space that anything that does change, you suddenly that's pulling your attention, right? And there's a reason for it, is because again, evolved in the outdoors, spent significant amounts of time in the outdoors as we've gone through evolution, and we've had to respond to stimuli. And as we've seen danger, or as we've seen signals for food types, or as we've read the land contours so that we know where water sources are, all of those little factors, weather patterns, stars, all the things that aren't stationary. Water moves, stars go through the sky as the world rotates, right? And as we go around, and you have birds flying across, you have even just leaves. And it was interesting when I was working in professional services, I got speaking to a data scientist that had done a lot of study on image recognition in artificial intelligence. And as part of that, he said one of the hardest challenges that they faced as researchers was being able to codify a tree, because a tree is never the same. Every second that passes, that tree is in a different form to whatever it was before and whatever it will be again. And that's because it grows, it shrinks, the wind changes its leaf patterns. One leaf might fall, and there may never be a leaf in that place again. It changes. It changes just like our indoor environments don't change. They are static. This fan will still be there in 15 years above my head if I left this room and closed the door and didn't come back for 15 years. Whereas out there, 15 years is a long time, and the entire environment can change. So actually moving back out there means that when your attention has been depleted from being indoors in the static environment, and you're, without even recognizing it, you may actually be craving your attention to be restored through having all of those signals and all of those stimuli being processed by your audio, by your visual systems, just a sense of smell, the taste
Mhm.
of salt on the air, all of those little things that you just can't recreate it indoors. We try to. We use diffusers and we put plants in here and we use warm wood to try to give us the impression that it's uh it's the outdoors. But the reality is that there's no real cure other than to head out there and to get restored.
Sure. And what about play then? We obviously deal within play-based activities, and we speak a lot around the play personalities or the play styles as they're now to be known. Um, are you a believer and a fan of using microplay within the same context to restore focus and attention within an office if it's not an ability to go outside in that moment? Is that something that you would recommend?
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
definitely. And it's one of the best pre-event activities I did with a client of mine was street Scrabble, right? I think it's one of our
Yeah.
tried and tested activities, but fantastic one to lead into an event or to just run as like a standalone, as a little micro play for your team. But what it does is it challenges your team to head outdoors because they need to go and they need to spot road signs. So it doesn't need to be that you're telling everybody, get outdoors, go and do something outdoors. You can set them a task that involves them to go outdoors and they can reap the same benefits. And I think that's the way to think about it, is that it doesn't necessarily need to be an intentional all of team approach to everybody going and spending 10 minutes outside. It can be, let's set a task or let's go and have a meeting somewhere. And the only way that we're allowing our team to get there is by walking. And that is just going to force people to be outdoors. And through that, they are just vicariously going to pick up the benefits that come with being in that environment. So I think
Yeah.
that microplay, like you can challenge yourself, you can
Yeah.
challenge others, you can set yourself little competitions, and you can also, like for me, it's actually just being intentional about blocking out time to completely disconnect, and giving myself permission to do that as well has just been, yeah, the
Mhm.
most rewarding way to find a sustainable approach to that work-life balance and the demands.
Yeah. For sure. And I think, this time of year now, coming out of winter and the poor weather in most locations, we see more and more teams come to us for what you're saying there, right? Let's create an experience where they leave the office, they get outdoors. What programs are you seeing being the most popular coming into spring that kind of encapsulate what you're saying there around movement, natural nature outside? What would you recommend for a team wanting to take that on?
Yeah, I think Survivor is one of the most original programs that we run, and it's one of
Hmm.
the most popular and remains popular. And I think because it blends beautiful activities, like a beautiful sequence of activities within an overall theme. And then it can also be run in any outdoor environment, really. I've not found one yet that it can't be run in. Perfect for even just outside on a balcony in the local office or in the nearby park, in the nearby beach, down on the promenade near the waterfront, wherever the environment may be. you can actually run this program like and it works really, really well because it's got flexible activities. It doesn't require any substantial amount of equipment to be brought into the space. And usually it's well, if not always, it's leaving no impact on that space as well. So councils and complex strata management teams, they're usually quite open to running that program. But equally, city scavengers. I mean, a great race, amazing race, fugitives, Mission Impossible, Hunt for Santa's Sleigh. They're all themed around moving a team through space and moving them through whichever space that may be, urban environments or out there in more natural environments as well. And you can actually choose the activities to be able to go and lead people into spaces that they wouldn't otherwise have gone and visited. So it may be that instead of walking down the main road, you lead them down a path that you know is going to go through a bit of bushland, and you just set them a challenge along the way. And that way, there's an extrinsic reward for actually going and participating and going along there. There's an intrinsic reward, which is that individual feels better for being in that space. And then as an organization, you're benefiting from higher productivity, better attention restoration, and a team that's when they've gone through that type of perceived risk when they're in the outdoors together, there's a bonding that occurs that you just can't simulate in the same way indoors.
And do you then look at like a transitional program like a scramble or a race versus one that's more stationary outdoors is more beneficial because they're changing the environment. They're outdoors, but they're different environments outdoors rather than that one. Do you think that's beneficial, or are they equally as beneficial for a team getting outside, getting the natural fresh air?
Yeah, yeah. I think that it depends on the threshold for risk that any client may have. So some
Mhm.
clients, and it could also come down to mobility, right? And I think that we shouldn't lose track of the fact that we have an older participating workforce in a lot of cases. Yesterday I ran a program, and I would say that probably the average age was in the late 40s to 50s. And there's other ones where it's a younger crowd, but there is a lot of older people that may have mobility concerns that may not be able to do something that is that transitional as much. So something stationary, something static, but still using a local area can work better for those individuals. If you have an active competitive crowd, though, I don't think there's any reason not to head outdoors. And if there's weather conditions that are potentially going to cause issues, like a bit of drizzle here, bit of rain there, even if it's just a really hot day, then there's no reason that should stop you. It should just be that you can tweak a few things along the way, and that you can make sure that everyone's aware that if it does rain, for instance, there's ponchos. That's an easy solution. If it's going to be overly windy, you avoid going to the beach, and that way you're not getting smashed by the sand as it blows up.
Mhm.
If it's a really hot day, you head towards the woods or somewhere with a bit more shade or some more water-based activities to cool down. So everything can be tweaked.
Yeah.
There's no just blanket rule to say we can't do it because it says there's a 5% chance of rain. I don't think that that's a reason that we should be allowing us to stop ourselves from going out there.
Yeah, I think you're limiting yourself and the total benefits if you are. And that's why you probably take on a professional's opinion to think of those external factors in that environment to make sure that the activities you select are one thing that engage and connect, but you still control the environment, that it's safe and it's healthy for everyone to feel the benefits. And what you're saying there is spot on. Like I think too often we see people not or teams not wanting to take any risk at all for going outside because of the chance that it may drizzle or it may be slightly hot. But when you understand the environments around you and people like us experts knowing all the different parks and outdoor spaces and shade spots and things like that, it's probably more risky not to be outside because of the benefits in general. And what about then, Kieran? Like, let's move into the movement side of things in general. Like, we've got the nature, but then we've got the ability to obviously move. And I know there was some research done at Stanford, I think it was, around generating ideas moving and solving problems versus doing stationary. And I think the study that was quoted was actually even an indoor study. They were on a treadmill, but they found that someone was 60% more creative by walking and kind of processing their thoughts versus being stationary. Talk me through your opinion on that and how that can be utilized from like an office perspective, I guess, to be more creative and innovative.
I think technology makes it too easy to multitask.
Yeah.
right? And I think that I was chatting to you just before this call started about having a call yesterday, running a presentation. I've got multiple screens, and those screens all of a sudden reversing where they were actually at. Like I thought I had it all set up in a certain way. I started sharing my screen, and suddenly my screen, the way I'd set it up, it all changed,
Yeah.
and that just knocked me for six because I had an idea of how it was supposed to work, and I knew that I could multitask across multiple screens to do what I needed to do. And then when it actually all changed, I wasn't able to quickly do anything about it, right? And I think that this is where, when you head outdoors, that's stripped away. It's hard to multitask because really all you're focusing on is you're moving through a space. If you find yourself head down on your phone as you're walking along, you're probably not doing the right thing. You should actually be head up and enjoying what's around you and observing what's around you. But then it gives you clarity of focus and thought as well. And this is why people that go running, I don't know, my brother is one. I know our director Dwayne is another. People can head outdoors, they can run, and it just gives them this single-mindedness that gives them the ability to process so many things that they're unable to if they're sat still at home. And what it's providing them with is it's providing them with the what we know is the chemical and hormonal releases that come with exercise. The endorphins start pumping around the body following that weariness that you feel gives you the satisfaction of knowing that you've done something that is it's been taxing on your muscles, but it's beneficial in the long run as well. And I think of even ideas in the shower, and I know that that's a different type of movement, but you are moving in the shower. And I actually, it just literally just before the call started, occurred to me that maybe the ideas that we have in the shower is because that is water falling on us. And for whatever reason, that is somewhere in our evolution, potentially, that is where being in that natural environment next to a stream, next to a river, near a waterfall, a bubbling brook, whatever it may be, maybe that provided an environment where you had to think differently and you had to approach a challenge differently. You had to approach a problem differently to get through that or over that obstacle. And maybe it's been simulated in a strange little way in a little microcosm that is our shower cubicles. And yeah, that's not a fully formed thought yet, but it's one I've just thrown out there to see if it actually has any
Kieran's
legs.
theory on showering. Yeah.
There you go.
Um, Absolutely. And you mentioned something earlier, like where you put your desk as the location. Like personally, I think walking in outdoors, having conversation with someone side by side, like if there's a lot of not conflict, but like you're having a strong conversation with someone, it's less confrontational to be outdoors, be side by side rather than face to face on a screen. So I think it's an important lesson to know that when you're intentional around the type of outcome you need to have with the conversation, you can get creative and do that walking. You can do it side by side outside, whatever it might be. And I think you'll get better outcomes than being face to face in the screens. Look,
Yeah.
mate.
And it gives you
Yeah,
just like
go.
endless opportunities
Sure.
to take divergence as well, right? So if you are approaching a certain conflict or you're approaching a certain point in a conversation, there's always things around you that can help you feel safer and can
Yeah.
help you redirect the conversation if you need to as well, which is harder when you're on a screen, you're facing somebody, or you're sat in a meeting room face to face or across the desk from somebody else. It's hard to
Mhm.
escape. It's hard to be able to use a distraction as a vehicle to help navigate a challenging conversation. Whereas outdoors, it just well, comes naturally, right?
Yeah.
It's uh, it's just there for the taking.
Mhm. I'm 100% agree. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I've had a few clients talk to me about the play challenges. I know we talk with our periodic play model in terms of integrating play into the workplace around play challenges and September. Are you familiar with that concept? And
Yeah,
yeah, so and utilizing a challenge in that regard, or like a group challenge with to do increased steps and coupling that with our type of programs, is that something you're seeing people come and talk to you about more and more now with a more understanding of the benefits of being outside and wanting that type of thing?
yeah, yeah. And I think that it also something like that is it's an easy grassroots entry pathway into heading out there, right? And it's going to for different people it does different things. For
Yeah.
some people, it might be that they're getting their social fill from being outdoors as part of a group. So it might be that they're partnering with family members or with friends, and they're going out and they're having a bit of a walk along and they're having a chat, right? There's
Hmm.
others that gives them their individual sanctuary to process information, to go through things, to be able to just head out and to be isolated in the great outdoors, which I believe isn't actually an isolation. It's actually being welcomed into something much greater in terms of an organism than ourselves. But it can be good for people on their own. It can be good for groups. It can be good for intrinsically motivated individuals that just want to feel like they're doing something better for themselves. And it
Mhm.
can be good for those extrinsically motivated individuals that can go and actually, like with September, achieve something that is an objective, a collective task that they're contributing to as well. So I think it does something for all. And I believe that even people that can't walk, can't take those steps, they still get great benefit from being in those outdoor environments, whether that be just as simple as being rolled in a wheelchair to the waterfront and throwing bread to the ducks, right? It can be a simple thing, but it can make a world of difference for people.
Yeah. And I think within the programs, like you said, kind of coupling up different outcomes for the individuals within a program, it comes down to how we enter those play states. And some people want the social connection, some people want to move their bodies, some people like the puzzle aspect of a challenge. And I think, understanding that team dynamics is very different. If you have a team that wants to take part in something like that, um, you know, some sort of transitional outdoor based program actually enables a lot of boxes to be ticked at the same time, rather than just one we're going and doing steps. So it's important to probably remember and to understand that. Now, mate, to kind of wrap things up today and kind of close off, I'm aware that you've spoken at depth in terms of some of the theories and some of the ideas that you can put into practice. Now, let's say your top 5 or 6 tips for someone to go, right, I understand I need to be outdoors more. I can benefit from nature. Where would you start from someone that is currently on their screen, 24/7, locked in their cubicle, to integrate some of these ideas into their life without overwhelming them to a point where they feel like they have to change everything? What would your top tips be?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Probably actually one of my top tips would be to if you're part of an organization that has access to additional like EAP services, right? They often will provide you an opportunity to speak to like financial counselors or with psychologists, with different types of counselors or different life coaches, career coaches, that kind of thing. And that can often be a way to be able to actually convince yourself through engaging a third party that is unbiased to give yourself permission to head out there, because it's hard in ourselves, and sometimes it's hard if we've got demanding managers or bosses, lots of deliverables, KPIs. You can get so caught up in it. So I think that actually having an external voice, and if it's not going to be your manager that's telling you to do it, or a partner at home, or a family member, someone that you respect, it can be that you can actually bring in that impartial voice, because they are almost undoubtedly going to say to going outdoors and taking a walk or exercising in the outdoors is going to be beneficial for you. And it can be that little action. It's an affirmative action that you can take. You can start that process, but it can provide you with the permission to actually take that time, because then you're doing it for not only the betterment of yourself, but means you're going to be more productive. You're going to be feeling better. You're going to take less time off. You're not going to leave the job. There's a number of factors that will come with feeling better overall. So that would be like probably a key one. Second one would be booking the time, right? If it is to be, it's up to me, right? So you've got to go and do something structured, to put something in place to go out and do whatever it is that you're going to do. If that is just walk outside and feel the sun on your skin for 5 minutes during the day. It can be a small thing, but actually schedule it, put it into your calendar, and it can make it happen. Third thing there would be getting somebody else as well to join in on that fun. So actually bringing along somebody that can be somebody over a long distance, or in your local housing complex or your apartment building, your office, somebody that you can buddy up with and you can hold each other accountable like that as well. Fourth would be read some literature on it. I mean, there's a wealth of information out there, and nothing that you're going to read is going to say heading out there is a bad idea and that you shouldn't do it and it's going to be the worst thing that you ever did. And sometimes it can be, if that's how you like to take on information, literature, or a podcast, YouTube, could be using those things that are seen as a bit of like the opposite of being outdoors, but using them to convince yourself to head outdoors can actually be the counterproductive instinct that actually is beneficial overall as well.
Mhm.
Um, where are we up to? 5, bring green stuff inside. Green
Yeah,
stuff and warm wood things. Try to avoid wherever you can from using blank materials that have no contours, no textures, no patterns. Try to go with more natural looking and feeling things because that is simulating all of those little benefits that we have as well in their own way. Um, yeah, just continue to learn, continue to challenge yourself, and continue to embrace play and playing outdoors.
for sure. Speaking like a true explorer in the play personality, mate. Just challenge yourself and grow and understand that, yeah, life is a bit of a journey, right? To plan and to have fun. I said I'll come back to it. Your outdoor camping, that interests me a lot, and we've only got a few minutes left, but I'm keen to know whether you use that as a tool or is it something that you find to relax? Like, why are you so active in that space to get away, to completely disconnect and have that time?
Yes. I think I haven't found anything anywhere I've been, 5-star resorts down. I've not found anywhere that recharges me in the same way. And I think that it's easy to go and get caught into the booking.com algorithm or Airbnb or wherever it might be and to go. And then the decision is, okay, which hotel or which house am I going to get? And that's the only decision that it becomes. If actually though, before you even start that process, you go, could I go and camp? Could I head outdoors? Then I believe it opens up a whole array of opportunities for you. And it doesn't mean you have to go and rough it and go sleep like I have at times, just under the stars with nothing more than an emergency blanket over the top of me to keep me from hypothermia for the evening. Through to you could take a caravan, head outdoors. When you actually remove the comforts that we feel that we surround ourselves with each and every day, you're pushed to challenge yourself. You're pushed to think about every decision you're making. You're pushed to think about how you're packing and the multi-purpose of each item, and it gives you far more intent around everything that is involved in that process, as opposed to just cooking stuff in a suitcase and being like, I can just buy it when I get there if I forgot it. Right. Instead, it gives you this self-reliance and this belief. And it's a feedback cycle that as you do it more and more, you'll become more self-reliant and you'll be like, you know what? Actually, I got this. Like I can do this. And it's amazing what you can do. And for me, it's been multi-day, multi-week expeditions out in the bush on my own. And I've always came back. I've always came back with stories and resilience and belief and a sense of identity and purpose in life that I just can't get elsewhere, right? And then just to add on to that, and it's a story I think I've told previously, is that when I took my daughter camping for the first time, I think she just turned 3. And as I was like making lunch and I was getting things ready, and she was keeping herself occupied, she was over near the fire pit. There wasn't a fire lit at the time, but I looked over and I could see she just gravitated to this patch of dirt on the ground. And she just sat down in the dirt and she picked up a stick and she just started drawing little drawings in the dirt. And I hadn't given her any instructions to do this. I hadn't told her to go and keep herself busy drawing something. She just gone and found this spot and she'd created something in the dirt there. And I just watched it and I just felt like I was looking at something that people would have felt thousands of years ago, right? That have the cave paintings, it's the artworks that are created when you take away all the distraction and you give somebody just the canvas that is nature and you ask them to create something. What they do in that space has been, well, possibly one of the building blocks that's led our civilization to be able to get to the point where we're even having a conversation like this with technology versus being out there. I believe that if we hadn't actually been out there to begin with, we'd have never got here, right? So there's
Mhm.
something to it. There's a benefit out there that's led us to where we are, and I believe there's a benefit out there that can take us forward as well.
Yeah. And you said, like, when you remove that distraction, amazing thing happens. Creativity, performance, it all links together. So, look, mate, I think we'll hold there. For today, I appreciate your insights. As I said at the top, mate, you're a real expert at understanding these concepts and putting them in practice and actually living and breathing this stuff. So I appreciate your time to fill in everyone listening. Um, as I said, if anyone's Queensland based in particular, I would highly recommend getting in touch with Kieran to plan your outdoor or indoor activity because the level of thinking behind the activities and the environment is unrivaled. I guess finally, just to remind everyone, September, John Christensen will be joining me on the Play Lab for that interview around the fish philosophy and where that came from. So yeah, again, really just highly recommend that gets shared around, and if you can, uh, attend live. If not, get the recording. So, look, thank you again, Kieran. Thank you for everyone who joined us live. I hope, yeah, there was some insights there you can take away, you can implement into your own life. As always, we'll be sending around the links and the resources via email uh, in the next kind of 48 hours. So, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kieran. And until September, we'll talk again. Thanks so much.